For starters, ignore the dishes. I still have to wash dishes. So another video of a whole week of dinners. And we're actually starting this very early in the morning. Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Vicki and you're with Grammy in the kitchen. First off, I want to say thank you to each and every one of y'all who watch my videos, who hit that thumbs up button, who subscribes. I appreciate it so much. We are less than 350 more subscribers, reaching my next goal of 2,000 subscribers. Share my channel with all of your social medias. Let's get the word out that we can feed our family with real food made from scratch on a budget if we shop and prepare properly. We need to stop eating out, relying on fast food to nourish our bodies. We need to get back to basics and get into our kitchen and make the meals that our family eats. With that being said, let's get started on this video. So tonight I decided I wanted to have tacos. So I went ahead and took a pound of ground beef from the freezer, put it in the refrigerator last night, and it's done. We're gonna cook that later today. But I'm gonna make a sourdough tortilla. Now you know our monthly challenge for the month of March is using our sourdough and our sourdough discard for recipes. We're going to get out there and learn new things to use our sourdough and the sourdough discard, so we're not wasting it, we're not throwing it away, and we can continue to build our sourdough starter. So this recipe is from Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. It's her sourdough tortilla recipe. I'll put a link in the description below on how you can find her recipe, as well as I will write out all the ingredients you would need for this recipe. The tortilla dough needs to sit for 12 to 24 hours. I'm not going to have either one of those. It's actually 9 a.m. and I'm planning on cooking dinner around 7. So that's only 10 hours, but that's okay. That's what we're going to go with. So last night before I went to bed, I removed some sourdough and put it in a jar that's in the refrigerator, because I'm going to be making crackers also. And then I fed the sourdough starter, so it's ready for us today. So we need 1 cup of sourdough starter, and I'm going to have to feed this very soon. We need 3/4 cups of water. I'm going to mix that together. That's just the sourdough starter and water. We need 1/4 cup of olive oil. One and a half teaspoons of salt. And we need 3 cups of flour. Her recipe actually says to put this in a stand mixer. I'm just going to do this by hand. All right, so I got most of it in corporate. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the countertop and knead it just a bit. It's very, very shaggy at this point. Trying to incorporate all the little crumbs and bits and pieces in here. It's come together pretty fast. I'm pretty amazed at that. Her recipe says that I'll make 12 tortillas. That's more than what we need, but that's okay. We'll find some use for it. Oh yeah, that came together really easy. Oh wow, very soft dough. So that was a very, very easy, simple recipe to put together. It was just 1 cup of sourdough starter, 3/4 cups of water, 1/4 cup of olive oil, 1½ teaspoons of salt, and 3 cups of flour. Super easy. We're going to use the same bowl. There's a little olive oil in there. We're going to cover it with plastic wrap. And we're just going to leave it right here on the island until later tonight when we're ready to make dinner. So the tortillas are basically done for right now. I have all the other components over there. The refried beans, the hard shell tacos, and I have the bag of soft corn tacos. Just in case this doesn't turn out, we have a backup plan. But I'm sure this is going to turn out. I am doubling this recipe, but I'm putting this on the bigger cookie sheet. Every night when I feed my sourdough starter, I take out the discard and add it to this jar, and I just keep it in the refrigerator. So this is actually 2 nights worth of discard, but we need 3/4 of a cup or 200 grams of sourdough starter discard for one recipe. We're doubling this, so we need 400 grams. All right, there we go. Tear it off to 0 on grams and just slowly add this in until we get to 400. Perfect. And I'm gonna put this back in the refrigerator. Now right here on front, I have a piece of tape and it says not milk. I don't want the husband to go in the refrigerator, see this jar of white stuff and think it's milk and add it to his coffee. Might not like that. So I just wrote not milk so he knows. Going back in the refrigerator. So in this little ramekin, I have, remember we are doubling this recipe, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You will need a total of 4 teaspoons of dried herbs. I have 2 teaspoons of thyme and 2 teaspoons of rosemary. I'm going to mix that in really well. I have 4 tablespoons of butter, melted and cooled. I want to make sure that butter is well incorporated into that sourdough discard with all those herbs. Perfect. I have parchment paper on the large baking sheet. I'm going to hold the parchment paper with my thumb, make sure that's not moving while I am tilting the pan to get it spread out almost to the edge. I find this actually works better than using the spatula or the offset spatula, because it will make some thin areas. This actually makes it more consistent. Sorry if this is a bad view for you. And I think we are good. That looks good to me. Now we're putting this in a 325-degree oven for 10 minutes. Then we'll take it and score it, because the recipe I found says it will cook anywhere between 20 to 50 minutes. And you're supposed to check it periodically during that time after you cut them into squares. But my oven actually takes the whole 50 minutes. So in the oven for 10 minutes. Then we'll take it out, score it, put it back in the oven for 50 minutes. 10 minutes is up. Now we need to cut these into crackers. Put this back on the baking sheet. Oh, look at that. Back in the oven for 50 minutes. 50 minutes is up. Oh yeah, they're good. So we're just gonna let them sit right here until they cool off. And I'll put them in a Ziploc bag. I'll take them to work and eat as a snack. But that is it for today. So we have the sourdough tortillas sitting right here. We'll deal with that tonight for dinner. The ground beef is in the refrigerator thawing. Right over there, I have all the other components to make this taco dinner. I asked the kids for some suggestions on a side dish, and my son, CJ, gave me a great idea. Can't wait to see you at dinner. So we had the tortilla dough sitting here for 10 hours. Just go ahead and divide this into 12. I believe they're going to be too big. I'm going to cut them down just a little bit smaller. Maybe like a golf ball size. That looks about right. All right, we're going to start with that. I'll lightly flour our surface. All right, maybe we should have left them bigger. So that's too small. Let's make it bigger. We're learning as we go, family. first one is always ugly, but that's okay. It's still edible. So I've got the griddle on 2 burners heating up. And we're just going to cook that for about 5 minutes on each side. While that's cooking, I'm going to be over here rolling out some more dough. Oh, look at that, it's puffing up. I have a plate with a clean dish towel. When these are ready, we'll put them over there. Wrap them up. In this pot, I have whole potatoes with skin on, boiling in some water. That's gonna be our side dish. Ooh, look at the color on that one. Beautiful. Right, let me just go through all of them. Get them all cooked. Then we'll move on in cooking that ground beef. When I thought they were going to be too big, they're actually the perfect size. We ended up with exactly 12, just like Lisa said we were going to have. But look how soft and pliable that is. Gorgeous. So we're just going to leave them wrapped up in this towel so they'll stay nice and warm. We're going to go back to the stove and start working on the taco meat. The potatoes are still cooking. Let's check them. Nope, they're not ready yet. Well, let's get the hamburger started. Let me go ahead and brown all this brown meat, and then we'll move on to the next step. Still waiting on the potatoes to finish cooking so we can get those peeled and start on this side dish. The potatoes are done. I drained the hot water out and added cold water just so they'll cool off so we can handle those. Ground beef is done. I do want to reserve 3/4 of a cup to go into those potatoes. The rest of this we're going to turn into taco meat. So one of our frozen tomato paste, drop that in there, and some homemade taco blend, and put about 2 tablespoons. That looks about good. And I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of water. I'm going to turn this down low and just let that tomato paste thaw and dissolve and get into this meat. In the meantime, we need to work on those potatoes. So these were just some russet potatoes that I left whole and boiled, and I just want to make sure the knife goes in and comes out easy. Just going to run the knife across it to get all the peeling off. They're still warm. Cutting them into chunks, maybe 3/4 of an inch by an inch. All right, let me get all these potatoes cut up. Then we'll move back to the stove and start working on this side dish. So I sent the kids a text this morning. Told them that we were having tacos tonight. And I asked, what's a good potato side dish? And my son, he sent me a link. It's called Mom's Picadillo, Picadillo con papas. Means potatoes with ground beef, for what I understand. He says he makes it a lot, and he said it's so good. So I got a cast iron skillet. We want to heat this up really well with some avocado oil. To add some peppers. This is just some frozen green peppers we had in the freezer. We'll add one of our garlic pucks. If you're using fresh garlic, just 2 or 3 cloves. The hamburger we set aside. So in this ramekin, I have 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 3/4 teaspoons of pepper, 3/4 teaspoons of cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. This recipe calls for Roma tomatoes. We're just going to put 2 of our frozen tomato paste in here. And about 1/4 cup of water. Once we get that garlic thawed and toasted and get the tomato paste thawed and blended in, we'll add the potatoes. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the potatoes. Probably should have gotten the bigger cast iron skillet. All right, let's play switcheroo. And we'll get this all heated up, and then we can start building our plates. Okay, family, everything is ready. So I asked the husband if he wanted to try one of our homemade tortillas, and he says he does. We're going to make it into the double decker that he likes. So I've got some heated refried beans. Put in the microwave for about 2.5 minutes. Hard taco shell. It's a little bit bigger than the taco shell, but that's okay. Put some taco meat on there. And some pepper jack cheese. I want to make him one to make sure he likes that tortilla before we make another one. Let's give him some of the potatoes. It's a beautiful plate. Let me go hand this to the husband. Put some refried beans on there. You know, I'm not going to use the hard tacos. I'm just going to do a soft taco. And if you want lettuce and tomato and salsa and all the good stuff, go right ahead. We just prefer to eat it just like this. And some potatoes. All right, that is my plate. So these tortilla shells, we use Lisa's recipe from Farmhouse on Boone on sourdough tortillas. We had them sitting on the counter as a dough ball for 10 hours so that dough can ferment and do all the rising and all the good things. And then we rolled them out and cooked them on cast iron griddle. See how good they are. actually pretty good. And I like that they're pliable. They're soft and pliable. These turn out really nice. Okay, CJ, I'm trying your potatoes. That's actually really good. Thank you, CJ. Well, that's what we're having for dinner tonight. We're gonna sit down and have dinner. Got all the dishes done except all the pans on the stove plus the plates and the forks we're using. But I can't wait to see you on the next meal. It's gonna be just as good. Tonight we're gonna have ribs. This is the St. Louis style spare ribs that we got on sale, I think sometime last month. And we cut them in half and we put them in vacuum seal bags. One of these is perfect for the husband and I. I'm gonna go ahead and get this seasoned so we can get it in the refrigerator so it can marinate in that seasoning until we're ready to cook it tonight. So I have a sheet of plastic wrap. I do want to remove the silver skin. And that's just a thin layer of material that's right here on the bottom. Once you get it started, it pulls off very easily. Just a matter of getting it started. Sometimes it helps to have a piece of paper towel. There it goes. It's coming now. There we go, perfect. I do want to dry it. I have my hands washed. So this is a homemade pork dry rub. If I can find the recipe, I'll put it in the description below. I want to put a liberal sprinkle on this rib. Just turn it over and do the back side. We'll wrap it up in the plastic wrap. We're going to put this in the refrigerator until we're ready to cook it and let that rub mix get all marinated into that meat. So the ribs have been sitting in the refrigerator wrapped in that dry rib rub. Say that 5 times. Dry rib rub. I can't do it. And plastic wrap for 5 hours. Now we're ready to go ahead and start getting these in the oven. I have the oven preheating to 375 degrees. I'm going to put it in here bone side down. Let me wash my hands. I'm going to cover it with aluminum foil. And we're going to bake this, I have no idea how long. The internal temperature needs to be between 200 and 202 degrees. That's well done. So this is a St. Louis style rib with that dry rub. I will keep track of time and let you know how long it took. And the only thing we're going to have on the side is French fries. We're not doing anything else. If the husband wants some baked beans, I'll open up a can of baked beans. If he's fine with just ribs and fries, we're going to have ribs and fries. All right, so I'm going to put this in the oven and I'll keep track of time. Let's go ahead and get some French fries in the oven. Let's put a pinch of salt on them. Let's temp this rib and see if it's, all right, they're reading 195, so it's getting closer. We're just using the same barbecue sauce we used for the ribs last week. I'm just going to paint it on here. And I want to paint some on the bottom also. They have been in the oven for an hour and a half. We'll put in the oven for another 30 minutes and then we'll check it again. And that's how long the fries are going to take. 30 minutes is up. The ribs perfectly cooked. French fries are not ready. Still have those in the oven. We'll take the ribs out of here. Put them on this cutting board. And we'll cover it with aluminum foil so they'll stay hot while we're waiting on the French fries. We want the juices to get distributed into that meat. So when we cut into it, the juices won't escape and go all over the place. It'll stay juicy for us. When the French fries are done, we'll go ahead and take the aluminum foil off of the ribs and we'll go ahead and cut those. We'll give the French fries another 15 minutes. So we're fixing a plate for the husband. And I asked him if he wanted some baked beans, and he said yes, so we're going to get some baked beans on here. All right, and we'll take this to the husband. All right, so I just asked him if he wanted some extra barbecue. He said he does not. So we're having French fries, baked beans, and St. Louis style pork dry rub barbecue sauce ribs. Perfectly seasoned. We're going to sit down and have our dinner. Until it's time to cook dinner again, I'll see you then. Oh wow, the light coming in this window is horrible. So it's that time of day again. It's dinner time. So I asked the husband, what do you want for dinner? Because I always decide what we have for dinner, but occasionally I'm burnt out and I just asked for some advice from him. And he found a recipe online, but of course, Grammy fashion, we're going to tweak this just a bit. This is just a muffin tin meatloaf. I took some of our frozen potatoes, or mashed potatoes that we keep in the freezer. Out of the freezer, we have cheddar cheese, barbecue sauce, and I took a pound of ground turkey out of the freezer. Now this recipe calls for that boxed dressing mix. You know which one I'm talking about. We don't keep things like that in our pantry. So we have to tweak this just a bit. So come on in a little closer and I'll show you what we're doing. So I have the large muffin tin ready for us. In this bowl, I have a pound of ground turkey. And I have this bag of sourdough bread cubes that we dried in the oven. So I just weighed out 4 ounces and put it in some water just to get it hydrated. This was 4 ounces. I did put it through the food processor to break up some of it. And a half a cup of water just to hydrate them a little bit. We're going to go ahead and dump that in. It's been sitting here for about 10 minutes. So we're going to put about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 2 tablespoons of barbecue. And we're using the husband's favorite barbecue. That looks about right. Get everything mixed in together. You use any kind of ground meat you want. Ground beef, ground turkey, ground pork, ground chicken. Doesn't really matter. Turkey is what I took out of the freezer. Turkey is what we're using. And I'll put a link in the description below the recipe the husband found for us to use. And then I'll just tell you how I tweaked it just a bit. All right, that looks good. The recipe doesn't call for oil in the muffin tin, but because we are using ground turkey, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to go with it. I was going to line it with parchment paper, and that's what I should have done. If you're using a ground beef or a ground pork, you won't need to put the oil in your muffin tin, but we are using a leaner cut of meat. That's the only reason we're doing this. I'm just swishing it with a paper towel to make sure it gets well coated on the walls. Let's see if we can divide this in this bowl into 6 so we can have even amount. And this is the large muffin tin, not the small ones. I'm just using my fingers, giving it a little score. A little bit smaller than a baseball. And we're using ground turkey, so we want to get the temperature up to 175 degrees internal temperature. Got a little bit left. I'm going to add just a bit to each one of these. All right, let me go wash my hands. Put it on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper just in case we have some spillovers, and it'll be easier to clean. In the oven for about 20-22 minutes, and then we'll check the temperature. So I have 4 mashed potato balls. I'm gonna put them in the microwave just to thaw them out just a bit. Then we'll put them in the pot with some milk. Taste it for salt and pepper. If we need to add it, we'll add it. If we don't, we don't. And then dinner will be ready, and that's really all we're having. It's meatloaf and mashed potatoes. So I put the frozen, wow, that sun, whew. So I put the frozen meatballs, they're not meatballs. I put the frozen mashed potatoes in the microwave just to try to melt them, thaw them. I can't talk today. I'm gonna put about a half a cup of milk in here, and I'm just gonna heat this up on the stove. I'm gonna have to keep our eyes open on some potatoes that go on sale this week or next week, because I think that was the last of our mashed potatoes in the freezer. So that was 20 minutes. Check the temperature. It's only 120. I'm going to put it back in there for another 15 minutes, and then we'll check it again. So they've been in the oven for the initial 20 minutes and then an additional 15 minutes for a total of 35. Let's check the temperature. Okay, we're good. They smell really good. Let's put just a little bit more than a tablespoon of cheddar cheese, and this is a sharp cheddar cheese we picked up from Azure, right on the top. And we're going to put this back in the oven just till the cheese melts, maybe 5 more minutes. And we have 4 pieces of the homemade tortillas left. Just going to put those in the oven and warm them up. We'll use it as bread. Just for a few minutes just to heat them up. And there's our little meatloafs. Aren't they cute? And the mashed potatoes. And some bread. Quick, easy, throw together dinner. is perfect. Sometimes you just want simple and easy for dinner. No thinking. The husband found this recipe. Perfect. That is actually pretty good. We're going to sit down and have dinner. I can't wait to share the next recipe with you. See you back in the kitchen real soon, family. So it's time to cook dinner again. I'm hoping you're enjoying these week of meals, because I'm enjoying making these videos, cooking dinners, showing you how you can make food from scratch and still have a healthy meal on a budget. So today we're going to make one skillet lasagna. I know we made lasagna last week, but if you saw the last video, we had made some mozzarella and some ricotta, and I just want to use those, so that's why we're having lasagna again this week. But I'm doing this as a one skillet. So I have the large cast iron skillet on the stove. Let's heat that up. I went ahead and took a pound of ground beef out of the freezer. I have a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, 14.5-ounce can of diced tomatoes, and I have a can of tomato paste. This is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. We won't need it all, and you know what we do with this when we have leftovers? We'll put it in parchment paper and stick it in the freezer. I have one of our garlic pucks. Yeah, I have 11 pieces of lasagna noodles, or 10 ounces. Took the ground beef out of the freezer last night before I went to bed, put it in the refrigerator. So it's still a little frozen, but that's okay. I just want to get this brown. If you don't have a large cast iron skillet, just use a Dutch oven. It will be fine. All right, I'm going to let that cook for a bit. This is the mozzarella we made on the last video. I just want to go ahead and grate that so we can have mozzarella for a lasagna. If you don't have fresh mozzarella, you can use regular store-bought mozzarella, but you know we don't waste things in this kitchen. So we just took some milk that we weren't drinking and turned it into mozzarella, and then we turned the whey into ricotta. And that was the inspiration for today's dinner. Now let me go ahead and get this all grated up. Keep an eye on that beef. And when we're ready to assemble everything, I'll bring you right back. In the meantime, go ahead and get you a cup of coffee or a hot tea or whatever beverage of your choice. And I'll see you in a few minutes. This hamburger is a grass-fed, grass-finished hamburger that we got from a local farmer. It is so lean. There is no fat in this pan. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm not a big beef eater, but I am enjoying this beef. I'm gonna have to get me some more very, very soon. All right, so the meat is not completely done. It's not ready to eat. But I want to go ahead and add the garlic puck and about a good heaping 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Let's go ahead and season it with some salt and pepper. We just want to toast that garlic until we can start smelling it. Then we know it's ready to move on to the next step. And if you don't have the garlic puck like we have in Grammy's kitchen, just use 2 or 3 garlic cloves. And if you're not a big fan of garlic, leave it out. We're going to go ahead and add the tomato sauce and the diced tomatoes. And I'm just going to swish some water between the 2 cans to make sure we get all that goodness out. So it's a can of water. I have some Italian seasoning. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon. Onion powder, a half a teaspoon. And just because I love garlic, I have a teaspoon of garlic powder. And the lasagna noodles. We're just going to break them up in here. You want to make sure your noodles are submerged in that sauce. So just add water as needed. But as the noodles cook, it absorbs the liquid and it won't be like soupy type. We just want to make sure they're all submerged. Perfect. I do not have a lid for this pan, so I'm just going to use a pizza pan as a lid. And we're just going to let that simmer. Now we can't taste it yet because that hamburger was not cooked. It wasn't done. So we're going to let those noodles and that sauce with that hamburger mellow out together and get all flavorful. And then we'll taste it for any additional seasoning. We'll leave it there about 10 minutes. We'll check it again and see how long it takes for those noodles to cook in that sauce. It's been 10 minutes. Oh yeah, they're cooking beautiful. I'm gonna leave the cover off so that some of this liquid can evaporate and the noodles can continue to cook in the process. The noodles are not ready yet. Still make sure they're submerged, but it's already looking beautiful. So it's been cooking for 20 minutes. Let's taste it for seasoning. Perfect. And I'm going to add a half a cup of water, only because it's drying out a little bit and I want those noodles to make sure they're cooked. Just stir that in. Let's taste the noodle and see if they're done. Let's see. Find a small noodle. That looks good. We're going to taste that. Okay, it's getting closer. This is some ricotta cheese that we made the other day. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. I think it's just a little bit over a cup. Oh, that looks so pretty. Some Parmesan cheese. I'm going to add about a cup of this. Just sprinkle it on there. Stir that in. Oh, look at that, family. All in one skillet. It is perfect. And the last thing we're going to add is mozzarella cheese. Just coat that right on top. We're going to let that cook for about another 10 to 15 minutes until that mozzarella melts on here. Gorgeous. So we only used about a third of this can of tomato paste. and we're not going to waste it. So I have little squares of parchment paper. So we have one left in here from the last time. Just going to add these 3. And put this in the freezer. And the 1-skillet lasagna is ready. We're just going to let it sit here for 10 minutes and then we'll cut into it. Everything in 1 skillet. Let's go ahead and taste this 1-skillet lasagna. Oh, look at that, family. Oh, cheesy, ooey gooey. Everything was cooked in 1 skillet. Super simple. Came together in about an hour. It would have probably been faster than that if my ground meat was thawed. It was still frozen. That took a while to thaw and cook. But once we got everything together, super fast. Make sure these noodles are cooked all the way through and that the flavor is spot on. Family, that is delicious. This will be a go-to recipe when we want a quick, easy lasagna dish, when we have ricotta cheese, or we could put a bechamel in here, whatever we want to do. We can create our own 1-skillet meals if we have the ingredients we need. I'm gonna go ahead and call the husband in. We're gonna go ahead and sit down and have dinner. Well, I hope these meals give you inspiration to make a healthy dinner for your family. And do like we do, build in leftovers so you have lunch tomorrow. If you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. While you're at it, please subscribe. I would love to have you part of the Grammy family. Down below in the description, I'm going to put all the links to where we found the recipes we used in this video, plus the recipe for the taco seasoning and the pork dry rub. And don't forget, share the videos and the channel on all your social medias. Get the word out. We can feed our family homemade, nutrient-dense, beautiful food. And we need to stop eating junk food. Until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family.